Hello, traders. I am Whack-Off Trader, and this is the market recap. All right, that's going to be for April 29th. Oh, there we go, Wednesday, April the 29th. It's all over. Do this different times in the day, so sometimes it's the next day and sometimes it's the same day. So anyway, April the 29th. If anything, WB's clock definitely showed us the way. Yeah, it's quite I'll look at All right, we're back. Looking at the open, came in at 28.66. 29.18 was the high. Now, as we were coming into the day, obviously we had 29.18, and that really wasn't the high whenever I was working on the numbers, but at 8:30 everything started ripping. Low came in at 28.60. Going into opening print, we were 29.14. That's why I made that comment. Now, obviously, we're already above the weekly pivot. So that's one demarcation line that gives you a slant for the bullish trend. And the clock, if you subscribe, of course, to the AM turn, YouTube, you folks are watching this through YouTube on the private version, on the public version, you definitely want to subscribe to the AM turn. But that will give you the idea that this also has a potential to be a bullish trend buying pressure cycle based upon the cycle and the series of the days. All right, came in, we nailed the, let's get to the disclaimer before we get carried away. I always forget that. Yes, I have skin in the game. I trade my own personal account, starting between the Billfish trades for educational purposes only. Not a futures broker and do not manage any accounts. My intent to show where trades may occur. What you do is up to you. You can follow my levels ideas to profit or loss. You determine trade size, when, where, how you trade. Safety futures is not for everyone. It's a volatile, complex, and risky business. Before you invest, know how much you can afford to lose. Now, with that, in fact, we had a good day. We had 10 handles there on the 29.18s we were discussing. That would have been just a quick in and out, or just taking you a scratch. If you lost your face on the mouse, you might have had a scratch on that one. And the last one here, you want to get out, obviously, and get in and get short right before that Yale happened. And we're looking at the 29.42. And we'll talk about that one. I believe we can outline that, the one on the market cap. Could take a little heat on that one, just maybe 4 handles, I believe. And you would have held that and closed out right before the Yale. Now, sure, you could have held it on past the Yale, but that's really not what you want to do. You could if you want to. Previous day, here's what was going on. What else can I say? What else did you really need? Seriously, what else did you really need to figure out how this day was going to plan out? Now, YouTube, you won't get this. You won't get this. I'm going to have to cut it out. It is building a base. It's building a base on big time what? Accumulation or reaccumulation. Now, if you back it back, we'll lay it out for you. If you're looking at the, let's see here, got to get my day in here. Looks like it's April the 27th. You can see how we pretty much put in another base of accumulation around the 28.60. Okay. We put in a base of accumulation, and we'll try to rough it out for you here. About, say, 28.55 on up to 28.80. Now, if you play back, and I'm going to make you a playlist for the market recaps on the early reads. We'll do the market recaps another time. But on the early reads, I beat this number to death, 28.80, 28.80, 28.80, 28.80. And that's where it was at, guys. That is where the major accumulation was going into. No, I'm not using market profile, none of that. I'm just simply using Wyckoff. Okay, so 28.80. So we had a base of accumulation from 28.55 to 28.80. Therefore, what are we looking at? 25 handle accumulation range. Then Ladian glowbacks look like, well, that was 28. There we go. That was April the 28th. That didn't sound right. That was April the 28th. And then that would have been the previous day that we're looking at right now, obviously. And then Globex, it came up and it popped up to about 29.05. Now, there's a lot you want to understand about that on Globex because you're not looking at the chart, but we put a probe up into the 2,900 handle range. Pulled back. Why? Well, it was Globex. No reason for them to rip the price all back up. So they pulled back and they tested. And they tested that coming in about 8.05. And where do they test that at? 28.80. That would have been the top of that accumulation range. Now, from about, say, 3:55 on the way up to, say, right around 12 o'clock, midnight. Okay, and we're talking about from 4:28 to 4:29 midnight. That would have been your sign of strength. Okay, this is Wyckoff. Coming back, ready? Guess what that would have been? Say coming in about 7:55, 8 o'clock, which had been on 4:29, that would have been your last point of support. In other words, sign of strength, last point of support. Now, if you take your little cursor, if you follow this along on your own charts, you can easily see lifting of supports, okay, on somewhat increasing volume, effort versus result. In other words, the effort to move that price up, to lift those offers, to absorb the floating supply was being met with the same result. So there was no divergence and we were coming up, okay? So then when we got to around 8:30, 8:35, obviously price started ripping. Why? Because now we had a catalyst. Understand, we had a catalyst based upon the news, and the news was just a catalyst. Whether it was good or bad, think about this. If you're looking at the particle wave theory, and I do hope you Googled that, and I probably would add that to my Pinterest, but that would freak all those a lot of folks out. So I wouldn't do that. Anyway, particle in a wave, when all those eyeballs and all those fingers was on the mouse right before that news are released, then you get that major catalyst, and that's what you're looking for. But what you want to look at is price was moving up, increasing as price was going up, okay? And then we had that 29.12-ish or something like that, and then we pulled back. But if you take a look, say right before 9:30, 9:20, 9:25, we were pulling back on lower volume, which is bullish price behavior. Buying pressure was into the market, and the selling pressure was pulling back. It's exactly what you want. Then, of course, you know how the day played out. But all I want you to understand is this was the Vesca Piscai, okay? So what I'm saying is you can see a base of accumulation over here. And like I said, all the selling climax. And for the most part, you've got this previous close. All right. Then you see the selling climax. I'll draw it out for you. Selling climax, automatic rally, secondary test. Okay, you got it? Then what's this? SOS, sign of strength. And then, of course, in the pullback, you could still say that was in that trading range. So then we had a sign of strength and a pullback. And ideally, this wouldn't be last point of support as much. Last point of support. I think it's LPS. But you're going to automatically get this because price is not ready to go up. So, yeah, I did indicate there was a little selling pressure going up because they weren't really. In other words, you still have to think about market mechanics, okay? If they had a bid on this side, okay, then they were simply removing the bid on this side. And by them removing the bid, that is depressing the price, okay? And then price will slowly trickle down. Now, you and I, we can't make that happen, obviously. But this side we had a bid on, and all we did, well, all the professionals did, or the composite man, that's why we like to use the composite man, he just pulled the bid, and the price just drips down. Now, once again, I talked to my institutional friend. And that's exactly what he said, what he used to do. And, everyone does it. Well, of course, if you're an institutional trader, we can put a bid in or put it out on the one lot. It won't make that big a difference. But all you need to understand is that the price is moving down because they're not willing to support and take out that offer. In other words, they're withdrawing their bids of price. And you can argue about the algos. We can't blame the algos. Price is just going to drip on down. So then, as I said, overnight glowbacks, we got us a sign of strength, whatever. It's 12 o'clock. I'll try to draw it as a schematic. Trader Dave always loved talking schematics and showing schematics. And actually, schematics are something that you would use for an electronic drawing. I never understood that. And then we're kind of drifting on down. And we're pulling back, like I said. And then you come up pretty much and rest right atop of this. So then this would be the major sign of strength. And this is last point of support. Well, Wyckoff, why do they call it last point of support? Well, Wyckoff calls it that. I don't call it that. That's what Wyckoff called it. Why? Because this is the last damn time you're ever going to get any action. And you're ever going to get your bid on, or you're ever going to get a piece of price, or whatever nomenclature you like to use. Why? Because it is just going to rip up. Hence, the last point of support. Boys, if you don't get in there, it ain't looking back. You ain't going to get back into it. Last point of support. So obviously, as a trader, you want to look for these things, and you want to have your bid in or your bid on. Because if you don't, you're not going to get it. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we got going on. We open up America. Hopefully we can get rid of this. But we ain't open yet. And like I said, hey, what do you say? WB's clock showed us the way. You can read this. It's pretty much all in there. Had to yell at 29.35, and we're trading 29.49 now. So obviously we're holding that above the yell. And it's all going to be about the virus. Smoke and mirrors for the most part. Why? Because it's going to maybe take a year or two to really get a true solution. And by then, we're already going to have all these potential protocols and how we're going to hold hands and how kids are going to date and all kinds of nonsense that all these, quote, experts are going to come up with. And you're the only expert. You're the expert of your mind, body, soul, and physical essence. Don't ever forget that. It's called freedom of will, freedom of choice, and that's what you came here to play. All right. And I made a kind of a little pun here. Make America back to great again. Because if we were trying to get to great, we just reset America. You got to love it. It was bullish. It was bullish, 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 bullish. Nothing but bull, nothing but net. Asian stocks rose broadly. That's what you want to look for. Easing counter-virus restrictions. Now, once again, guys, price don't tell you this. The news does. But you want to really think about that's what price is looking for. That's what they want for. And, of course, we had the U.S. techs trying to push everything up, and we had the Fed, and everybody knew the Fed was going to just lay down and play ball. There was no nonsense about that. I didn't know Japanese market was closed. Chinese shares rose. Cheers, investors, whatever. Rose. If you were writing a news algo or an algo for your mind, anytime you see the word rose, now AI may not understand that because there's two forms of rose. There's a beautiful rose, and there's a rose like he rose from the dead. I guess that's subconsciously what they're using, but it rose. It is risen, he is risen, or is risen like biscuits. It's rose. That's what you want to look for. European stocks flat, it's likely to higher. Finished 2-day meeting later. Investors looking for guidance on the world's economy. Think about this. The day before, we already accepted the fact that the world's economy is going to slip by 4.7%. European bank meets Thursday, following the Zion to downgrade. No big deal. Fed meeting. Fed meeting was coming on. The Fed chair, Powell, comment on the health of the economy and the latest policy might influence sentiment. You already knew he wasn't going to say anything stupid. Okay? January, March reading gross domestic product is closely watched by the market. Facebook or the folks releasing. report to the bell today, you just might suggest a higher open. It's all there for you guys. That's why we do it. Right there for you. You knew what the answer was going to be. It was going to be nothing but an up day. SOH still down. Okay, that's how close. Settled to 28.67. Europeans mix holding the market. Once again, that's the dead. I really want to get rid of that, but we got to open America. We got to remake America great again. I think that's what a slogan should be. Traders are waiting for the Fed to yell 4+% right there for you. The world economy is due to the virus. See, that was factored into the price. That's what I want you to kind of get the bigger picture of. The news is given, and then the price decides, or composite man decides what he wants to do with it, but that's already been factored into the price. Social distancing will last all summer. Guess what? That's factored into the price. That's what I'm saying here. If it's bold, usually that's a higher importance. At 10 o'clock, you're always going to have pretty much things going on importance. The Fed chair, press release. That was almost a non-event today. Supply 13 and 50. Pretty much we tagged that over right after that settle. And didn't get a chance to look at that. Trading 28.84. That's just how far price is moving. Seeing the lows, yet preliminary support, selling climax. We're working off the automatic rally. If so, preliminary supply. Obviously, we'll see. Yesterday's movement was 60-point range. We'll talk about today's range. This day has the potential to be high. I'll say it again. That's the edge that you have that other traders don't. High. You knew this was going to be it. That's not the last hour. I don't know what is. 1542. The last couple of days it's been 1551. So we're about 10 minutes thereabouts to the last hour of the high of the day. YouTube, you're back. White off wave. For the most part, I do not like the blue. Okay. YouTube, you're back. You can easily see they were still playing off of those lows. And what is this? I'm going to give you 1, 2, 3. What do you call that? That's called a spring. Then we'll get to classification, whether it's number 1, 2, or 3, but that was still called a spring, a little to no volume. And that's what you were looking for. You were springing that low of the previous day. Get it? Okay. So guys, what's this called? Those of you that just saw this video, you should be saying to yourself, Wyckoff, I didn't take notes on that. That's okay. Think about it. Okay. You know it's not going to get much higher. So this would be, okay, that's a spring, and we've already got selling climax, automatic rally, secondary test from yesterday. Okay. Then this is a spring here. Boy, I do hope I know how to spell that. When I was a kid, they wanted me to learn how to spell. This is really a true story. I refused to learn how to spell. I refused it. And they says, well, why do you not want to know how to spell? I said, well, for one, you don't tell me the rules behind why the word is spelt that way. And I asked the teacher, I said, why is cat spelled cat? And she looked at me and she said, we ain't never been talked to that way, and we don't really know ourselves. I said, that's fine. Well, teach me the rules, and then I'll learn. And she says, well, just keep writing it like 20, 30, 50 times, and you'll just memorize it. And I said, I don't want to memorize it. I want to know why. I says, look, someday, soon in my lifetime, there will be machines that will spell for you. Man, you millennials, I know you're loving that. But yeah, I was way, 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 way ahead of my time. As a matter of fact, the first word processor I ever saw was the one I wrote when I was in college, because they never had word processors back then. I wrote the first word processor I seen. And of course, later Word came out. Okay, let's get to it. This is a spring. Ideally, this would be the sign of strength, last point of support, major sign of strength, last point of support, major sign of support. See, what do you get right here? You get the Vesica Pisci. All right. Now, I'm sorry. But if you follow this line right here, you'd see that appear about right there. That was the volume. That's really where the big boys check the market, okay? All right. Now, actually, I should have drawn that a little bit better because you have two angles of ascent. One is there and one is there. Now, what this tells you is that their eagerness to get on board, the eagerness to get a bid on, the eagerness to take out those offers. There's a change of behavior. It's occurring at this point in time. Now, if you're going to draw support lines, you want to take the first support where it's the lowest, up, and then down. I ain't going to teach trend lines, but a lot of folks do draw them wrong. So basically now when you see that this line was drawn, then we have another angle of ascent. And so then we would take from this right line right here, and it would be something like that. Unfortunately, I like to do it live. Now, it's okay that we didn't pull into this overbought line. Either way, we would come back to that trend line. And of course, got a little bit exuberant, and you could make an argument that there could have been a third one about right there, and then that's when you broke the trend line, and that would have indicated the high. Now, that's how that would have worked on Wyckoff. But what you've got to understand is, keep in your mind, you had all of this range. Well, it was like this, something like that. I mean, I'm not going to get it perfect. Maybe a bit of a spring there before yesterday. Might have came, well, I guess it did have to. Came up about that high. Remember? Yeah, it did. And then it pulled back into the last hour. About right there. Something like that. See? And you see that continuation. You getting it? You getting it? That point, that was, what did I say on the previous video? That was a base of accumulation. And of course, this here was your spring. Pull back, and then that would be on the springboard, as Wyckoff would say. And we pulled back. Oh, notice how this volume came down. See how your volume's coming down? And then that's the sign. Get on board, boys. That's the memo from Golden. We're going to take this thing up for a ride. And they did. 1 o'clock. Here's 2 o'clock. We'd already kind of come down in the Wyckoff wave. And this came in right in about 1 o'clock. And that's about what you would have wanted. This is hardcore Wyckoff. Wyckoff. The way Wyckoff did it. Do not mix the Wyckoff methods. Do not mix the Wyckoff methods. It wasn't designed for that. All right. What do you see on the E-mini? Let's see here what I'm going to do. Okay, YouTube, we're going to cut some of this. We'll do that first. We'll do the private side first, and then we'll let the YouTube folks back on board. That was fun. Okay, I'm going to let you pause it. All right, YouTube, we're back. You won't get to see that, will you? That'll just be a flash. Oh, I love it. For the first time, I get to use my tape reading chart. All right, a couple of things we can take away with this. We can see the range was, and it's really hard to see, I know. When I do the redesign on the chart, I'll definitely make it more, a little bit more easier on the eye. It's actually very well easily seen from when I'm using the chart, but of course we're second generation graphic. 45 handle range on a 1.2 handle day. That's the first thing. Okay, we got price chasing up to the highs. That's the second thing. Now we had 2942. Okay, 2942 handle. That was 2,400 is what we had there. Not a whole lot of volume, and that's okay. I noticed that they took it up a little bit to say 2944, about 2 handles more right here. And then, of course, price falls back away, and you can see a little bit of bid coming in here, 3,000, 4,000, 17,000. Then the algos let it slip to 2,000, And for the most part, you would have probably gotten out somewhere in this area right here. For some reason, some days I'm able to put my text there, and some days I'm not. So we're definitely going to look to rewrite this. And like I said, it's the type of day the chart's made for. That's my hope, that we get more days like this. And of course, that's where we talked about an 8-handle run. And be sure and start clicking on that email I sent out to all the subscribers to the early read, because that's where it's at, guys, right there. It's going to get you all the information you need about how to look at this stuff. All right. Once again, let's see here. Go ahead and give us a feedback. Give us a call, 1-888-WICOFF. That's 1-888-WICKOFF or 1-888-992-5633. I did get one email from one gentleman, and due to return, he says, well, your phone's not working, and he was making it 4633. But it's 1-888-992-5633. Or obviously drop us an email at feedback, wyckoffamatrader.com. Your feedback makes me better. And YouTube, I'm going to go ahead and give you a quick run through on using Wyckoff. Wow, that was such a great presentation we made for the subscribers to the early read in the AM turn. I'm blown away. I'm going to try to think about the best way I can eloquate this. All right, YouTube, from Wyckoff's standpoint, wow, I keep wanting to blur those clock turns. From Wyckoff's standpoint, we get this move up, and you can see how volume is starting to climax this move, but then we're coming back. I mean, ideal, we'd like to see this come in at half back, but that's not going to happen. Why? Because they want a bid in right here, and that's where you're going to get the majority of the bid. So we can easily see as prices coming down, we got a little bit of a higher volume. So as we come back in, you can see how volume is starting to slack off. We have a base of accumulation right here. You got that? That's been going on for just about an hour, a little bit shy of, say, 10, 20 or so. This drop from here to here, that's pretty much them just dropping the price so they can get any loose shares that are remaining and absorb the floating supply of stock. All right, we'll take that out and we'll put it back in. So you should be able to see two ascending lines. Now, when you draw a trend line, I'm not going to get into trend lines, but from a high, from a low to a high to a lower to a higher low, obviously you can easily see that that line is kind of dancing and eating up that overbought line. So as we see the price still pull back to here, then we would we would erase those, and we would say, okay, that first level of advance was just a little bit too, and I'll try to get it right there. A couple of things are going on. There's actually three lines. This one is a major line. And you can see we're getting a little bit overbought there. But then we also have a third line. Oops. Surely you can see that. Okay. But you would take that one, and that's pretty much going to dance right there. Now, this is the Emini, and I already did the chart talk for the Wyckoff for the public YouTubes. So you can easily see now as we're pretty much waiting to see how that's going to turn out. Now, WB's clock, you get a little bit more edge, but we're not privy to give you that information right now, but that would definitely tell you that was the high using WB's clock. But what you're looking at here is we get this topping formation. Now, WB was famous for calling it a crown, but we're only looking at 1 minute, so you really can't see a crown as per se. But when price is unable to pierce and get up to this overbought line, you can see now that they start hitting the exits. See that? So now we're coming through this last major support line. And of course, we're pulling back through. And of course, now we're looking at testing this overall major uptrend line. So price comes up, and like I said, we come up and we're able to get back in the trend line. So what does price do? it pulls back right before the Fed yell. Now, once again, if you subscribe to the AM turn, you would have known on Monday the potential this day had based upon how the clock was put together. So it's WB's clock, and I probably edited it out, but over the early read public version or private version, I basically said that you will find out that the low for the Fed will be at this particular area in this particular time. Many reasons for that, but that's using WB's clock, like I said. So now we broke through, okay? So I'm going to clean this up, and we're going to go to the next trend line. Before we do that, we'll do that anyway. We'll draw you a trend line. For here, now that you see that we broke through, then you have another trend line. I should immediately go to two things. Now I'm doing this with the track roller ball. So actually I was going to get a pen, but the one I looked at disappeared, and then I could no longer get it from Micro Center. And they want me to pay, they won't accept cash anymore because they're afraid that money has cooties on it, I guess. All right, right here, what do you notice? You should say, well, Wyckoff, that is definitely an oversold position. And you know that because it's precipitous drop. And then, of course, the volume climax is that. And yes, that's pretty much right on the Fed opening yell. All right. So we can see the price now rallies, maybe 5 or 10 minutes there down there playing around with it. So now price rallies up through the supply line. Then it pulls back. Now notice it pulled back exactly to test that supply line. And it pulls back on ideally less volume. You can see that right there. Now, at this point, once we've tested the supply line, it's only natural for price to move back up. And you're anticipating this, a Wyckoff, this would be preliminary support. This would be like on a macro level. And of course, obviously, this would be selling climax. Now, it's easy to see that after we already go through it. But if you use the trend lines, you can easily see, well, there you go. Now, obviously, you want to use the timing and the cycles. And like I said, the WB had already told us this particular day that the high of day was going to be in the last hour. So really, guys, I'd really love for you to subscribe to the AM Turn. That's really what we're here for. Then you get all this proprietary stuff. And, of course, you would know when price wasn't able to pierce and challenge that overbought line, you can see that they started hitting the exits. And of course, now we got preliminary support, and we're breaking that, and we fall right through it. And of course, we challenge it back. Hopefully that's not the end of the day. I'll have to look at it again. But either way, that's how that played out. All right, YouTube, I really do apologize for having to cut up and cut it out and say, hey, this is only for YouTube, for AM Turn subscribers. But guess what? It really is. I mean, I've been making videos. I mean, I've made over, 375, 425. I've never counted them. But what inspired me was one person. She subscribed to my channel. And I had the channel for a year and never put up a single video. And I thought, you know what? Everybody's at home. You know, we got this nonsense going on. And maybe now's the time. And I'm surprised that all the competitors, they weren't even on the internet. Because if you ever saw my webinar on Mr. Top Step, we did one for them. I talked about my dilemma on how to find Wyckoff, because Wyckoff wasn't even around. I mean, it wasn't even on the internet. And I talked to Craig, and Craig said he didn't want anything to do with it. So it's just amazing how people are charging $3,000 for their expertise. And, I do know that they, did seminars at Golden Gate and Hank Pruden. And as a fact, when he passed away, my father, WB passed away a year. And so, and then my father, and WB's anniversary of his death will be coming on this month. Well, May. And my father passed away. And then a year later, Hank Pruden passed away. And I thought, okay, there's a void now. I need to fill it. So No disrespect to anyone, but this really is the best place where you can get Wyckoff hands-on every day. Unfortunately, just can't get WB's turns. And when you subscribe to AM turn, then you get the melding of both and the dovetail into each other. And that's really how WN and I really jailed. Is I taught him Wyckoff, and he taught me his interday clock cycle. He realized I had an interday memory, eidetic memory, and I don't ever forget anything. And he didn't forget numbers. And so he realized that his legacy could live on through me. I could tell you every story about his kid and all kinds of interesting stuff. Let's wrap it up. Yeah, that's right. I'll just cut it up. YouTube, I haven't done this in a while, so we'll go ahead and do this for you. And we'll just cut it out of the private version. Still haven't decided exactly how I'm going to cookie cutter it. I had this kind of gut feel that things weren't going to be the same. Intuition, infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it. Holy Spirit, a lot of folks like to use that word. That works for me just as well. I really try to listen to that. And Wyckoff taught me a lot about that, about learning to trust your intuition and trade on intuition as far as what your notion might be for that next turn to give you that type of confidence. That's really the only way you're going to beat these algos. I've been doing the newsletter since August 18, 2017. And you can easily see that giving on 628 trades, 4,344 points. And if you're taking every one on a one lot, 117,000. And you could have made, if you're taking every one on a three lot, 651,000. Three particular sample, we're looking at 411. That's from the beginning of the year to right before the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Nothing could be more prevalent. Had 75 trades, 62 were winners, and we're looking at an 82% win-loss ratio. Back then, we could keep the tight stop, 2 handles, 4 handles. Now, maybe not as well. So we had to expand that a little bit more, but still yet, right before the major threw mile from the train, 20,000 on one lot, this particular sample, and 61,000 on a 3. Now, to me, this is the most important thing, anything I'll ever say. The number one mistake is what moves the market most traders make. It's a step back and wait for the market to prove them right, when they should be ready, willing, and able to let the market prove them wrong. Quality is essential to the equipment of a speculator, trader, investor. Their judgment, self-reliance, courage, prudence, and pliability. And these should be added to quality and patience. In brief, rigid self-control is half the battle. You must train yourself to act upon your decisions and to carry them to successful conclusion. Operate with no emotions. Be indifferent to each trade's outcome. Be willing to let the market prove you wrong. And with that, as always, be nimble, be